Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the weekly kickoff. All right, now a good starting place is the news pages, right? Just to see what's sort of going on, see if there's any major news over the weekend. And I can tell you there's not. The left-hand side here, pretty much geopolitical stuff. Nothing really to concern ourselves with just at the moment. We'll see how that develops. But now the new sort of news out there is about the yen and it's slipping and this, that, and the other. I mean, the yen hasn't really gone anywhere. Right, it nosedived last Monday, bounced back. Yep, we got weak US fundamentals. That's the key part to it. And is the market bracing for US inflation? I don't think so. I think they're just anticipating that we get weaker numbers and the path, or the trading path and the path for the US dollar is down. Right, we start to get some trends. Outside of that, you just get a few updates. Right, sterling, what's going on there? Canadian notches biggest weekly gains. A bit of blah blah blah. Right? But you can sort of tell what's going on. And I've left a few of these trend lines in place. The markets are now really waiting to see, where the fundamentals are, right? Obviously, the picture for the US dollar will become apparent on Wednesday once we have the US inflation numbers. Now, like sterling here, right? If you've been trading sterling and you think it's a bit tough, it is at the moment, right? Breaking to the downside, breaking back to the top side. Very tricky. Aussie and Kiwi, well, they are sort of trending higher, but the price action has not exactly been helpful, right? And the dollar CAD, well, the US dollar is still sliding and oil pushing to the downside. We did have weaker Canadian employment numbers, but that hardly sent a ripple through the market. Now, the key for me, and you want to keep an eye on this, is the two safe havens, right? The Swissy and the yen. These two are trading hand in hand, right? If anything, the dollar yen is starting to track a little bit more sideways. I guess you could say dollar Swiss is doing the same. Keep an eye on the safe havens here, right? There's been massive shifts of cash. Well, sort of, everyone wants to get long yen and look for that the end of the sort of carry trade, but it's not over yet, right? It's not like, sure, the Bank of Japan raised by 0.25, get rates at 0.15. But we want to see these inflation numbers out of the States, and that'll tell us how aggressive the US or the Federal Reserve is going to be on interest rates. Now, just on that, we've got the market's sort of almost a line ball decision for a fifth or back to 25 point basis cuts. So it's over here now. They've just moved the 50 basis points to 46%. But I tell you what, weaker inflation numbers, we'll see that go up, and that's why the US dollar will fall, right? So, and then you come back in and look at the what we got this week. Now, here's the Canadian employment numbers. Okay, the unemployment rate, as expected, a little bit softer employment change. Tell you what, it's going to lead towards a further cuts in Canada. Now, let me just bring you over here. I'll just get up trading economics, give you an easier view through the week. Right now, this is where you need to sort of pay attention. Okay, now Tuesday, there's a few bits and pieces. UK unemployment, the unemployment numbers are a little bit tricky, but with UK inflation numbers, like Wednesday is our main day, right? If you can sort of rejig your schedule, you want to be able to potentially have a look at these things, right? US inflation numbers, the key part to it, previous numbers 3%, consensus 2.9%, right? And you got those UK inflation numbers as well. And that's going to set us up for the rest of the week, right? In particular, the US inflation outlook. If that's softer, well, we got clear, weaker US dollar direction. Then we come into Thursday, some Chinese numbers. Once again, not just the yuan, but looking for Aussie Kiwi there. They are a massive impact on the Chinese numbers. Then we've got the follow-up numbers. This is where the GDP numbers will start to come through. Once we start to see what the Bank of England are doing and what inflation, if inflation's falling in the UK, GDP will be the next component up. Retail sales in the US, and then that's followed by retail sales in the UK. And you got the building permits and Michigan consumer sentiment numbers there Friday. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out here. Okay. Now, if you're looking across the board here, sterling is well and truly probably the main instrument this week. Okay, sterling against the dollar. Well, we've got inflation numbers. We've got UK unemployment rate. We've got UK GDP numbers and UK retail sales. If you don't look at sterling, well, maybe you should, right? Sterling against the dollar, of course, on Wednesday, but sterling against the other currencies, well worth a look as well. That's the sort of major focus for me, and it makes it easier when you're trading and you're specifically looking at one instrument, right? And what I sort of say about that is, like sterling, you become like a specialist on sterling. You can look at everything that's going on in sterling and really piece together where momentum is coming from, direction, and then piece it together as we go forward, right? And that's pretty much where we are. You come back in and look at the Bank of England. Okay, it's a bit of a line ball decision what they're going to be doing with rates. So the inflation numbers coming into this September meeting, right? It's a line ball decision. So the inflation numbers for the UK are a lot more probably important than the US ones, right? The Fed are already expected to cut for the next 6 months, right? So, but the UK, it's a line ball decision. Weaker inflation numbers there. We'll see, we'll squeeze the Bank of England, and that's where we could potentially see some good trading opportunities, right? So make sure you go through your longer term charts and see exactly what's going on. The obviously that calamity last Monday where the dollar sort of collapsed, a bit of a yen carry trade. I'd say it's a misfire on some hedge funds who have been cleaned up, but we'll see how it goes. The dollar, to me, is going down. We have got a bit of a retracement here in dollar yen and dollar Swiss. I think perfect. We get weaker US numbers, then we're going to start be looking at potentially lower levels in dollar yen and dollar Swiss, and they've retraced a little bit. The rest of the pairs down the bottom here, just a little bit of a mess. They're not really going anywhere. We need clarity because we want euros, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi to start throwing up some good trades, right? At the moment, it's sort of like, stop, start, all this sort of stuff going on. Anyway, there's not much to it. The shape of this week, as I was just showing you on the calendar here, is very easy to map out where the moves are going to come from and what they're going to impact. Now, the live training sessions, I've got a live training session tomorrow, preparing for inflation data releases, right? All those traders in our masterclass, you can access this. Obviously very important because we do have UK and US inflation numbers coming out. I'll show you what to look for and how to prepare for those opportunities. And then outside of that, the live trading sessions for our live trading and coaching members, obviously UK inflation numbers, US inflation, and next week, the Canadian inflation numbers. But these are the two key ones we're going to be looking at for the next, for trading this week. All right, losing my train of thought there. All right, guys, that's pretty much it from me. It's a pretty lackluster Monday. If you are looking at the markets, just look, right? Redraw your trend lines, see what's going on. There's not a lot to really jump up and down about just at the moment. But this is what happens when we have these big inflation numbers coming out, right? Because the market will sort of pull back a bit, and then we'll be watching very closely as we go in through the that UK session on Wednesday. Then you've got the North American session, and that's where we're going to be watching very closely, right? The Reuters poll, 0.23% for month-on-month, year-on-year, and you've got your ranges there. But I'll give you more details on the days or the morning leading up to those events. All right, guys, have a good one. All the best. Cheerio.